What's up, guys? Welcome to a new podcast here on the Metro Sports MoKan channel. I'm Landon. I'm here with my boy Riley and Nick, two of the bigger soccer guys in the MoKan fam. This podcast is going to be called the False Nine Pod. We're going to be talking about soccer and not just high school soccer with the girls' season coming up, but also we're going to be talking about Champions League, Europa League, MLS, and KC Current a lot. We wanted this podcast to be mainly um or more of a broader podcast than just talking about high school sports just because I think soccer doesn't get talked about enough in Kansas City or in the United States in general, really, so we really wanted to talk about all of it. um my soccer background, I mean, I played since I'm like 2 3 years old. I got a high school record, letters, and I'm still actively playing right now, going to Division II college, Lincoln University. And Riley, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Riley. I go to school at Green Valley. I'm one of the interns for Metro Sports MoKan. And I'm basically covering the girls' soccer rankings and helping out with this podcast, for the soccer side of Metro Sports.
What's up? I'm Nick Vandevenner. I'm also an intern here at Metro Sports. I'm a senior at Shawnee Mission West. My soccer background includes, I rode the bench for 4 years on my high school team. And, but I do watch a lot of soccer and I know a lot of the players' names. So,
Yeah. And what's your background, Riley?
Um, Sophomore at Green Valley. I played since I was very little, since I can remember. Um, have gradually started playing for different clubs over the last 4 years, played for four different clubs. Was JV Defensive Player of the Year my freshman year. And then I played JV my sophomore year, and hopefully we'll start varsity as Green Valley's defense is starting to lose some players.
Yeah, and if you guys don't really know about Missouri high school soccer on the boys' side, Grand Valley's always been one of those top teams. Me being from Winnetonka, we played Grand Valley every single year. Every single year we lost. Um, and my first 2 years, I was a little fat kid too playing against him, so it was like no chance. Um, but Kansas side of things, where Nick goes, always pretty decent defense there too. Um, we're gonna hop into things. We're gonna be starting off with Champions League. This morning was the quarterfinal draw, and some really good games. I'm not gonna lie, there's not a game on here that doesn't excite me as a soccer fan. My favorite team, Arsenal, got the short end of the stick. Maybe not necessarily as much with Bayern's current form, but Arsenal Bayern, last time that happened, it didn't end up in Arsenal's favor at all, even close. I'm definitely hoping for a new sign of Arsenal that we haven't seen yet in the Champions League under Arteta, since haven't really had Europe football in a while. But in this game, it's gonna be crucial for us to get an away goal, in my opinion. I don't think we can leave Bayern, Germany without even. I don't care if it's a tie, 1-1, but having that away goal is huge going into the Emirates. Um, last game, Arsenal and Porto, it went down to the wire off of aggregate. Trossard able to score a pretty beautiful goal, and Arsenal, pushing for more, but at the same time, they didn't want to let one up, as is because if they allowed a goal against Porto at the Emirates, you don't need one goal to go to extra time. You just need two goals to win it with that away goal. But I mean, yeah, what were your guys' thoughts on, Arsenal Porto, and what are your thoughts on Arsenal Bayern coming up?
you know,
Um, Nick, you go first.
all right. So Arsenal Porto, I, I was glad with how Arsenal played. They defended well, and Odegaard just so class. Oh,
Oh man, that
that
pass.
that that assist. Oh,
Yeah.
and let's see, Arsenal Bayern. My team is Bayern. You know, Love them. They're not playing that well this year. They're not impressing me.
Yeah, for Bayern
But
standards.
yeah, but I still think they have that like pedigree. They have the experience. While Arsenal,
Yeah.
can they go as far as they have the talent to? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come down to if the two teams want to show up. I mean, you've seen Arsenal not show up numerous times this year, and especially against Porto, they did not look the greatest against the team that's in third in the Portuguese league, tying 1-1 on aggregate and being sent to pens. But then on Bayern's side, like they haven't done well on league play at all this year.
Yeah.
They're still behind on Leverkusen, but they got an 8-1 win in their past game against Mainz. So if they can continuously play well and carry enough momentum through this Champions League quarterfinal game, I think they'll handle Arsenal pretty well.
Yeah, and Bayern also coming off of that DFB Pokal loss to a third division team. So maybe that could be the team that breaks Leverkusen's win record, but we never know on that.
It,
Um, you were saying?
it's been a strange year for Bayern.
Oh
But
yeah.
then for Arsenal, like last year, I know you remember this, Landon. They bottled the league. They've got to take care of that. They're tied for first right now. I think Arsenal's going to be paid too much attention to one or the other. I don't see
Oh yeah.
Arsenal getting both.
See,
Uh,
and that's what I've been telling my friends all year, like my fellow supporters of Arsenal. I'm like, quarterfinals, semifinals, I'm happy with. I don't really care as much about the FA Cup as long as we win the league. And I feel like I was looking at us, Liverpool and Man City's remaining games, and I honestly think Arsenal has the easier road to I mean, they just can't slip up like they did last year. That's the main thing, complacency. And Arteta, he preaches that. If you guys watch the documentary on Prime, that's one of the main things he talks about. Second game of the draw, we have Real Madrid, Man City. Another rematch. I remember sitting in a college visit, my junior going into senior year, in Nebraska at Bellevue, and we were eating Chick-fil-A, watching the Man City Real Madrid Champions League game. I'm just hoping for another game like that. Like the last time those two teams played, it was one probably my favorite game of the whole entire Champions League. Real Madrid, kind of started off in the La Liga, not, Girona coming out of nowhere for one, but just trailing to a team like that, a lot of people put more pressure on them, I feel like in the Champions League. And, with the pedigree of players that they have, the way their players have been playing, it, it's just going to be a fun game to watch. Man City's always a fun team to watch and have your team play against. So I don't know. This one, it's a toss up for me.
Um, I think it's going to be a toss-up as well. I mean, Real Madrid had a immaculate comeback last time they played City in a Champions League game. But Real Madrid is in danger of losing some players for that series. You have Vinicius Jr., I think it's Tchouaméni and Jude Bellingham, who are
Yeah.
all one yellow card away from being suspended. So they definitely got to watch themselves that first game, and City will definitely put on the pressure in that first leg against them, hoping that they can knock out one of those three guys in that second leg.
Yeah, and Tchouaméni is one of those guys too that's like he's an aggressive player in the midfield, so I can definitely see them targeting him. I wouldn't even be surprised if he didn't start the game. If the game is at Bernabeu or is it at Etihad? First one.
The first leg will be at the Bernabeu.
Okay, so yeah, if Man City comes out of that game with a Tchouaméni yellow, a Jude yellow, and a 0-0 game, they're gonna feel like they won.
Mhm. Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest like aura matchups
Yeah.
of the
Oh yeah.
draw because got Man City just like so fun to watch, obviously. Then Real Madrid, you know, come on, like
Yeah. Yeah.
Vinicius, Bellingham, they just have so much aura. So this is the one I'm most excited to watch because I mean they're both fun teams, attacking teams, and it's gonna it's gonna be a toss up, of course, but I'm going Man City.
Yeah. It's hard to
I
bet
got Man
against
City in
Pep.
this one.
It's hard to bet against
Hmm.
Pep.
As a Real Madrid fan, I'm kind of nervous for this one, just because I know how City can perform, especially in Champions League games, and that they're the reigning champs. But I'm also kind of scared that there's a chance we might lose Bellingham for that second leg, and if that happens, um, I don't see us making a comeback like we did in previous years.
Yeah. And the thing about the Champions League, man, anything can happen at any time. And that's the thing about soccer in general. It's not one of those games where, you're scoring 100 points, 30 points a game. It literally can come down to the one moment. And that's what I love about it.
Hmm.
It's just heart racing. Third game, we got PSG Barcelona. If Messi was still at PSG, I would definitely be paying more attention to this one. But in my opinion, Barca's on the downfall and has been on the downfall. They still always find a way to perform in Champions League, but that's just Barcelona. I definitely do see Yamal, Pedri. They play a lot of games. They're only 16 years old. Like, I don't know how well those players hold up in this game. And I feel like PSG, Dembele at PSG right now. I feel like PSG has a lot more to prove than Barcelona does. And Mbappe obviously leaving at the end of the season, he's gonna want to win one more with them PSG. So
Hmm.
I think PSG is gonna run away with this one, honestly.
Yeah, this is the last chance kind of for PSG
Oh
because
yeah.
they had all these great teams and they never won the big one, and now Mbappe's leaving, and it's kind of they're not going to be bad, of course, next year, but it's going to be tougher. And but I don't know. I like Barcelona, obviously a young team, Lewandowski, love him, but yeah, I have PSG in this one. I just think, like you said, they have more to prove.
I've got PSG as well. I mean, this Barca team's been good. They just find a way to lose at some point. But PSG is actually one of the teams that I think could actually win this whole thing. They're in my top three to win this, minus Real Madrid and Man City. I think PSG has a good shot because Mbappe is just a freak of nature when it comes to these types of games. So yeah, I think PSG will handle Barcelona.
Yeah. It looks like we're all PSG with that one. The fourth game, kind of like the underdogs of the group, I guess you would say, are going against each other with Dortmund and Atletico. But the way those teams played in the round of 16, those teams I feel like have a decent chance to shock a lot of people. And I don't feel like Atletico or Dortmund gets talked enough about in the Champions League this year. And this game, man, I think it's really going to come down to, honestly, the away legs. Because Dortmund, it's a hard place to play. You've seen their
Mhm.
tifo, like their the smoke show that they did at an away game that delayed the match for the length of the first half. Like if they're doing that stuff at away games, imagine with Atletico coming in on UCL a day. Like it's gonna be crazy atmosphere. And I feel like players like Kareem Adeyemi, young guy up top, fast guy, he's gonna need to put on a show. And I feel like he will, honestly. Atletico, I feel like they're more of a well-rounded squad than Dortmund. But at the same time, I feel like Dortmund just has those guys, that the difference makers. They have more difference makers than Atletico, in my opinion. So this one I can see going to another penalty shootout or just like a 120th minute like nail biter in the second leg. But I think Dortmund's gonna come out on top, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I don't think Dortmund will come out on this one. Dortmund had an easy one in the round of 16 against PSV. Probably the weakest team in the round of 16 where they barely scraped it out. Won 3-1 on aggregate. But then Atletico Madrid actually proved something by beating Inter Milan, especially on pens, able to go the full distance. But as you said, Atletico Madrid is a very well-rounded squad that I think will make it to the semifinals.
Yeah, I agree with Riley on this one. I
I
got
always love the
Atletico
underdog.
Madrid. Um, you know, they beat Inter, of course, the leaders of Serie A, and they just like they play hard. Of course, they're very well rounded, but they just play like so hard. So
Yeah.
in Dortmund, they have good names. They have Sancho, of course. But yeah, I got Atletico Madrid in this one.
I don't disrespect it. It's one of the ones that I think is going to go down to the 120th minute though.
Mhm.
Um, Next thing we're going to be transitioning into is, FA Cup. The quarterfinals is set. Um, we're going to be doing a pick 'em from here on out, a little bracket, if you will, for the FA Cup. Um, Starting off with Man City Newcastle. It's always a pretty good game. Newcastle, they've been kind of iffy as of late, and Man City is, Man City. So I got Man City in that one.
Um, yeah, no, Man City is the obvious choice here. They played each other earlier in the Premier League this year. City won 3-2. But Newcastle's won three times in their last 30 meets. I don't think Newcastle will really stand a chance in this one. This is the part of the season where Man City really starts to gain momentum, for all competitions. They won the FA Cup last year, over Man United, and I think that's their goal again, to win it and just push everyone else out the way.
Yeah, Man City is locked in right now, and Newcastle they've been like wrecked with injuries, and they've just had bad form. I think this is a blowout for Man City.
Oh yeah. So we all agree on that one. Game two, I don't think we're all gonna really agree on. Man U Liverpool. We got two great franchises and historically great teams in England. As of late, one's been doing a lot better than the other. And I think that's for reasons. One of the main reasons, is the winger situation. You guys are paying $100 million for Johnny Russell's 20-year-old son. Like Johnny Russell will put up more goal plus assist average than Anthony will this season in the Premier League. Changed my mind. Um, I don't like him as a player either because, I just be scrolling through TikTok sometimes and I see the plays where he loses the ball and then just gets a red card after. He's a little crybaby in my opinion. Liverpool, a lot of vets, a lot of people who have been there and done that. Um, Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp is one of the greatest managers to ever do it, in my opinion. And you're going up against Man United. I'm not really think they're scared. I got Liverpool.
Um, I'm a Man U fan in the English Premier League. United's just a different animal in the FA Cup. I mean, last year they made a run all the way to the final. But there's a combined 20 injuries between these two clubs right now,
Oh
10
yeah.
on each side. But Liverpool, it's some quality skill players, like Alisson Becker, their goalie, and Jota. But and then for Man U, it's just like all of their like key subs and midfielders, because that's been the problem for them all year and why they haven't done well in any sort of competition. Now, as much as I want to say Manchester United, I think I got to stay on planet Earth and say Liverpool.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. You getting pre-peds, Onana or post-peds, Onana?
Onana's been good for Man United all year. And he's been one of the better goalkeepers in the Premier League all year. Now, it's just because the United defense has done significantly worse than any other
Yeah, and I
United
think that's
team.
coaching issue as well.
But Onana has the most saves up against the most expected goals in the Premier League. Now, I get that
Mhm.
their goals differential is like -2 right now, but
I
Onana's been
mean,
one of the greater
shoot,
goals.
dude, I had 26 saves per game in a season and I still lost multiple games 8-0, so like so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going Manchester United with this one. I just I just have the gut feeling, like when you have the gut feeling, you just got to go with it. Both Liverpool's obviously the better team right now, but Just feel like, man, United's gonna pull it off, you know?
Next game we got is Chelsea and Leicester City. You know, Leicester City right now in the championship, but definitely eyeing for promotion. I'm pretty sure they're
First place.
in, yeah, first place. Um, Chelsea, you know, have been doing better as of late. Some good comeback wins, one against Newcastle, you know. Mudryk is finally scoring goals. Um, I just think that Leicester, I mean, the championship has 46 games in a season and just championship play compared to the what, Premier League's 34
Yes.
38.
or 38. I mean, but still, eight more games plus you got Carabao Cup that they've been in, FA Cup that they've been in.
Hmm.
Like Leicester's already played 55 games damn near this year. So it's like I really don't think they are gonna have the the ability to beat Chelsea. At the same time, though, I don't feel like Chelsea's gonna walk over Leicester. I think Chelsea's gonna come into the game, you know, cocky like their owner, and it's gonna not go the way they want to. And I honestly think this game is gonna ruin Chelsea's season. They're gonna win, but at the same time, I feel like it's gonna be so scrappy of a win that they lose a lot of confidence going into the rest of their Prim games. But
Um,
yeah, I'm gonna go with Chelsea.
I agree with you. I think Chelsea wins this one. Now, I think Chelsea scores one real early in this one, and then it goes pretty quiet for majority of the game. Well, I think Lee Kester will start to have some promising attacks towards the back end of this game, but I think Chelsea will win this one by a goal.
Yeah, up the Chels, up the Chels. I think Chelsea's winning this one. I think it'll be close. Leicester's obviously good championship. They're a Premier League level team. It's
Yeah.
not going to be like a cakewalk or anything, but yeah, Chelsea. I got Chelsea in this one.
Yeah. And then next game we got is Wolves and the surprising team of the quarterfinals, Coventry City. I actually have an FM save right now that I'm with Coventry. Um, so I kind of have a bias towards them. Coventry is not one of those championship teams that a lot of people talk about either. They're one of those like overlooked teams, I would say. You know, the past few years, I mean, they've been in the championship for a while. The past few years, you know, they've been sitting around mid-table, finally making a push for the Prim. Um, you know, I'm pretty sure they had Amad Diallo for a little bit on loan. Um, but no, just like Wolves, I really don't see a lot of bright side with them in the future. Um, they've kind of gone through a little bit of a downfall since they've been in Europe, but I do think again that the Premier League side will come on top in this one, just for the same reason that Chelsea's beating Leicester. It's just I feel like the Prim teams have more of their legs underneath them right now. So I think
Mhm.
it's gonna be another close, like Riley said with the Chelsea game, just a early goal from Wolves and then 89 minutes of straight defense.
Um, I have still not came to a decision. I gotta come up with one quickly. But Wolverhampton has been one of those teams in the Premier League that have been able to upset teams from time to time. They pulled a close one against United where they lost 4-3 earlier this year. But Coventry sitting eighth in the championship, a few points out of the playoff spot. But Wolverhampton is missing their star striker Pedro Neto due to a hamstring injury, and I think that'll actually cost Wolverhampton uh, at least for regulation and extra time. I think this one gets sent to pens.
Oh yeah.
And Wolverhampton takes care of it there.
For me, you got to keep that like Cinderella story going. I'm going with Coventry.
Up the Sky
I feel
Blues,
like
man.
I feel like Pablo Sarabia for the Wolves, he's gonna score an early goal, and it's gonna go quiet. But then Coventry, like the 87th minute or something like that, just gonna score a banger. It's gonna go to extra time. Maybe they score in extra time. Maybe they goes to pens and they win. But I got Coventry City.
I
Maybe they're
like
going for
that.
the chip this year. They might be going for the chip. I don't
Man,
know.
imagine a championship team in the qualifiers for Europe next year. That'd be crazy. Because FA Cup, that gets you in what? A Europa League or is it Conference League now?
if you win the FA Cup, if let's say for example, if Coventry wins the FA Cup, they'll be sent to the Europa League.
That's what I thought. Um, I mean, I'm excited to watch that game. Probably more than I am the other three games, just because Arsenal's not in it anymore. But I'm definitely gonna be keeping my eye on the Coventry City. And we're gonna go ahead and transition into talking about some Premier League games this week. It's gonna be a little bit of shorter segment just because of the postponements. Arsenal Chelsea's postponed, Crystal Palace Newcastle's postponed, Man U Sheffield's postponed, Wolves Bournemouth is postponed. We do have Burnley Brentford to start off our mornings tomorrow. Um, Honestly, I don't really care about that game. Both teams are on the bottom of the form guide in the Premier League. Both teams haven't really done much this season. I do, however, think Brentford will win it just because, Ivan Toney hasn't been bad since he's returned. Hasn't really put up the numbers to prove himself, but just from watching some of the highlights, the way he's played, and I'm not sure if Wisa will be playing or not. But if he does, I got Brentford in that one.
I think it's gonna be a nice 0-0 Brexit draw. Good old English football. Um, but if I do have to pick a winner, Brentford. Brentford.
Landon, did you go for Brentford too?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go the opposite of you two. This one is at
Not for any
Burnley
specific reason.
at Turf Moor. Brentford is going to be a different animal with Ivan Toney because obviously they didn't have him at the first half of the year due to his suspension. I think it was gambling.
Yeah, he
Um,
bet on himself.
but Burnley is going to have a game or two in the season where they're just going to sprout, especially at a home game. I think this is one of the ones where they find a way to pull out a win.
Yeah, and Burnley sitting at 19th right now with 14 points. Brentford at 15 with 26 points. This relegation battle has definitely been less of a battle this year than the past few years. I remember last year I was like watching that till the day it ended. Um, but Burnley and Sheffield are going down. It just depends on if it's gonna be Luton or Nottingham Forest with him, in my opinion. And speaking of Luton and Nottingham Forest, that's our next game. Um, for Nottingham Forest, I feel like it's a way bigger game than Luton, just for the fact that Luton shouldn't even be in the Premier League. So the fact that they're still fighting against relegation, it I feel like it's gonna give them a lot of confidence in this game because Nottingham Forest on 24 points. We got Luton on 21. Goal differentials, 2 goals. I think Luton beats Nottingham by 2 goals. Um, and gets the upset. Nottingham Forest has made the signings this winter and to promote them, like boost them up the table, in my opinion. Callum Hudson-Odoi coming in, you got Gio Reyna coming in, and he's not even getting game time off the bench. So I don't really know what's going on with Nottingham Forest right now, and I don't think it's a good thing. So I got Loon in this one.
Um, This everything is pointing Luton's way. Everything says that they should win this. Nottingham hasn't been in the greatest form. Neither is Luton, but Luton isn't supposed to be in the greatest form because they're one of those lower teams that are supposed to stay down there. They drew 2-2 earlier this year. It's a home game for Luton. They're supposed to win this. But I think I got to go the other way and go Nottingham, just because there's always a game and a match week where all the signs are pointing one way and it just completely flips the other way. And I think this is the game.
I feel like this is going to be a classic Loon Town game. At least every game I've watched of them, they go up like 1-0 on a nice little header and then sell the rest of the game. So
That's how it
I'm going
goes.
Nottingham Forest 2-1 after nice little Adebayo header first half, and then Nottingham takes control after that.
I can see it going either way. I want Luton to win, honestly, even though I don't like rooting against Americans in Europe. But I would rather see Luton win this one. Next game we got is Tottenham versus Fulham. Fifth place Tottenham right now sitting at 53 points, and we got 12th place Fulham sitting at 35. The difference this year in the top six and everyone else is insane. Like, I don't think this has been one of the least competitive Premier League seasons in a while. And I feel like this game's gonna show that. I hate the Spurs. I'm a big Tottenham hater, but um I really don't think Fulham has a chance in this one. I got Tottenham winning 3-0.
Fulham, along with Wolverhampton, has always been one of those upset teams that always like to make it close to somebody. This
Only
one,
Arsenal though.
yeah, that too. I think this one will be a close one, but Fulham have won twice against Tottenham in their last 18 games they've played against each other, and I don't see them making it a third. I think Tottenham goes into I think it's Cottage.
Yeah.
And I think they go and get the win, especially when they have a game in hand over Manchester United and they're trying to keep them away from European football.
Hmm.
Because you guys pick Spurs, of course, I got to go the other way. Got to pick Fulham. Like you guys said, they're an upset team, especially with North London clubs. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and their striker Jimenez is he playing
I'm
this
I'm
game?
pretty sure. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I like watching him. I like watching him play. Traore too. So you know, they're a fun little team. Spurs, to me, it's kind of boring. So I got Fulham pulling off the upset here.
Jimenez is doubtful for this game for Fulham. They're one.
Oh,
He
But I
got
mean,
injured.
Alex Iwobi though, he's definitely brought life into the Fulham attack this season on the right side.
mm,
I'm actually doing a Fulham career mode on my FIFA, and Alex Iwobi has like off the bench for me has 7 goals in 6 games in the Prem. So
yeah.
I don't know, man. But the only game on Sunday that we have is Aston Villa West Ham, which I honestly think is the best game of the weekend. Aston Villa in fourth, West Ham in seventh. Um, I'm honestly surprised West Ham has done as well as they have. Jared Bowen this season with 14 goals, Susek
Mhm.
and second on their team in sixth. But Aston Villa, man, their attack is just something else. Ollie Watkins with 16 goals, Douglas with Louise with 9, Leon Bailey with 8. They just have so many more options, and I honestly think that's going to pay off for them.
Both of these teams got off to a hot start in the Premier League. Out of nowhere, they were in the top four for a while. And you didn't think they were going down, but West Ham has gone down more gradually than Aston Villa has. West Ham obviously had a rough one last week from a red card, I believe. And then Aston Villa going into London Stadium, it's just a difficult task as it is. Um, and for the fact that Austin Villa won 4-1 at home earlier this year, I think this is going to be a draw. I think it'll be 2-2. I can't really come to a decision here. These two teams are so even on so many sides. I think it'll end 2-2.
I'm going Aston Villa 3-2. So I agree with Riley. This one's kind of a toss up, but
Oh
I
yeah.
do like West. I mean, I do like Aston Villa's attack. Musa Diaby, Ollie Watkins, fun to watch. I mean, Jared Bowen's obviously very good, but I just like Aston Villa better, so I'm going with them.
Yeah. And we're gonna keep tallies on our pick'ems for Premier League and MLS and all that. And starting next episode, we'll actually have a little tally board for our record. We're gonna go ahead and transition into MLS. Be one of the last things we talk about before we end this episode. First off, we gotta talk about Sporting KC versus San Jose tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Children's Mercy Park. Sporting KC's first 3 games, 3 ties, 3 games I honestly thought we should have won. First game of the season, Houston gets that disallowed goal. We come, Eric Tommy scores, and then lack of discipline from our center backs, leaving somebody open on the back post to just tap it in. And that's exactly how Houston scored their first unallowed goal too, just a tap in header on the back post. So, I mean, San Jose, Jeremy Ebobisse up top, definitely going to be one to watch. Christian Espinoza going to be one to watch. Their captain, Jackson Ewell, going to be one to watch. Those guys right there I honestly think those guys right there can take San Jose pretty far. Um, but I'm not going to root against or pick against my team, man. Like, come on. Alan Polito, he definitely needs to get himself on the score sheet this week if we want to win.
Hmm.
That's always been Sporting KC's problem is a lack of uh attacking. Not the fact that we can't attack and that we don't have good attacks, it's the finishing product on top of those attacks. We can go and have 30 passes in around the box and not even get a shot off. Like, that's the stuff that loses Sporting KC games and has lost Sporting KC games since 2011. So, another thing too is Danny Rosero, he's gonna have a big time matchup against Abobasi. Abobasi does a lot off the ball. Danny Rosero's one of his biggest weaknesses is off the ball movement and positioning with amongst Fontas. Fontas is a ball playing defender. He likes the ball at his feet. Leads MLS, I believe, again, in pass percentage from its center defensive mid or central defender. The thing is with that is we can't have two center backs that like to push up the field with the attack because Sporting KC is prone to counterattacks. It's just known. And Bobasi, Espinoza, those are the guys you do not want leading the counterattack against us. But Children's Mercy Park's about to be rocking. Me and Riley showing out to the game. I got Sporting KC 2-0. Alan Polito getting on the score sheet, and William got off the bench.
These two teams, you could basically call them a rivalry. I get that they're not
Oh,
close,
yeah.
but these two teams have played each other twice in the last three playoffs that they've had, and Sporting's come on top of each one of those. We eliminated them last year on pens, but San Jose is just going to be one of those teams that finished bottom of the table. Sporting, now, should they have 5 points? Absolutely, because of the Philadelphia Union game. Now, right now, they're stuck with three draws. And both these teams are tied for 20th in the league on goals scored per game. They both only have two in their three games played. But San Jose has yet to find a way to win a game, and I don't see them doing it here at Sporting. But Sporting fans are still waiting on Polito, who won the Comeback Player of the Year last year. We're still waiting on him to score his first goal. And same with Daniel Shelby.
Oh yeah, DS10 not even scoring yet this year. Come on, man. How you about to change your number and then do absolutely nothing the first 3 weeks?
All right, for this game, I think for Sporting, the gates are going to open up, and we're going to find four in the back of the net. I'm
That's
I'm
what we
I'm
hope,
calling it
man.
4-1.
4-1.
4-1.
That's if I get a 4-1 game, I'm gonna be the happiest man that day. It's that simple. I
I
haven't
know.
seen a like I went to the Minnesota game last year where Gotti Kinda's return where we won like what 3-1
Hmm.
and I was jubilated off of that game. So I don't even know what a 4-1 game is gonna do to me.
Yeah, I
Next
feel
game
like.
we're
Oh
go ahead.
yeah.
My bad.
Oh, I feel like we got a good result against LAFC. They're a great team on the road. San Jose, not that they're not great. So and it's at home. It's gonna be. I think we're winning. I don't know if we'll score 4 goals, but that's what I'm hoping for that.
Oh yeah. Game number one of the MLS weekend starts at 1 o'clock with Chicago and Montreal. Montreal, a lot of people did not expect them to have the start of the season, especially before the Joseph Martinez signing. But one of the better teams in the East looking like so far this early season. 2 games won, 1 game lost. Um, Joseph Martinez already got his first goal for the club. Sanusi Ibrahim is another guy that is dangerous. But Chicago's made some good signings too, and it's surprising to me that they haven't won a game yet. They just spent like 11, 13 million on a DP striker. They still got Shaqiri. So the fact and didn't they get Kellen Acosta too at CDM? So the fact that they're 0-1 and 2 is just it's super surprising to me. But I honestly think that this is going to be one of those games that isn't going to have a winner. I got 1-1.
Um, Chicago, as you said, they haven't found a way to win a game. Could you give them a little bit of slack for playing some of the top teams that finished last year, Philadelphia Union, Cincinnati, and Columbus Crew, who won the MLS last year? Yes, you can, and they have two losses to Cincinnati and Columbus Crew by one goal, and then they drew to Union. You can cut them slack for that, but their goalkeeper has played astounding this entire year. Um, now,
Patrick Brady, right?
I believe so. He's a very young goalkeeper
Yeah,
too.
young. I think he's my
Um,
age.
Not even the goalkeeper that they drafted this year in the MLS draft, because I know the goalkeeper they drafted because he went to Notre Dame,
Yeah.
Brian Ballard, because he's on injury right now. But CF Montreal came off a winner against Inter Miami 3-2. Now,
Without Messi, though.
yeah,
Without
without
Messi.
any of their star players playing.
Oh, and
Now,
Suarez wasn't in either. I forgot about that.
Now, I think Montreal will keep this close, and I think Montreal wins this 2-1.
Yeah, I'm also in the Montreal camp. They have a bunch of momentum after that win over Miami. Chicago, they have talent, but they're still just like similar to San Jose. They're just you know, they're not great. So I got Montreal on this one.
Next game up, we got DC United versus the MLS team. I mean the Miami FC. The MLS suck up team. I honestly don't understand the designated player rules. I know you're only allowed to have three, but they got like six. So it's kind of crazy. You got Messi being paid from the other team's revenue as well in the league, and Apple TV's paying Messi's contract. Honestly doesn't make sense to me. How do you get Messi, Busquets, Jordi Alba, Suarez, Facundo Farias, and Leonardo Campana and still be within salary cap? It's kind of questionable to me. And I watch Miami games just because I like watching Messi. And it's like watching 1986 NBA highlights for the Bulls. Like it is terribly refereed. I was watching the Real Salt Lake Inter Miami first opening week, and Chicho Arango for Real Salt Lake got brought down twice in the box without the ball near him and like tackled. And I'm pretty sure like the ref told him to like stop crying. So with that being said, I got Miami. No, nothing really needs to be said. It's Miami. Even their owner, David Beckham, was paid by the league's other teams. So it's just like rigged, in my opinion. I'm a hater.
Now, DC United has been a team that struggled the last several years. Wayne Rooney coached them a few years ago after playing for him. But DC United has been one of those teams that have started off the year very well or continued playing well throughout the year. But they're off to a great start so far this year. They're in sixth place with one win and two draws. And they've beaten Inter Miami four times and the seven times they've played against each other since Miami's existence. Now, considering that Jordi Alba, Messi, and all those guys will play, it's at DC United. I think that Inter Miami can pull off a draw 1-1. I
And Miami is coming off of a midweek game in the CONCACAF Champions League as well against Nashville.
Yeah, I just don't see this going any other way than a draw. DC United's draw their last two games. Inter Miami, they're gonna struggle with some guys with their stamina. Considering it's a away game, I think DC United can pull off a draw.
Well, I think DC United can pull off the win because Messi will not be playing tomorrow
Oh, really, really?
against DC United, according to a club statement. So, DC United can beat
Is it because
anyone.
RFK
You
Stadium
know,
is turf?
no, just because of his
Oh,
injury. I don't know, but they
hmm.
just did a like assessment on him, and he's just out. So,
Oh, okay.
you know,
Interesting.
we'll see. But everyone else is still there. So,
Yeah.
Miami has so much talent. But I think 2-1. I'm going 2-1 win for DC United.
You can only hope. I don't like Miami at all, man. Next game we got to talk about Seattle versus Colorado. Seattle definitely one of the most surprising teams of the season so far. You know, you always think of Seattle and always think of good teams ever since being introduced into the MLS, but this year has just not been it. They've had one loss, one draw, and one uh what would you call it? Abandonment, technically. The match got abandoned. Um
Mm.
and they're playing against Colorado, who is 1-1-1. Colorado, I feel like, has done more this offseason than Seattle, but at the same time, I feel like Seattle didn't need to. They just need to get their
Mm.
feet under them, start getting consistent soccer amongst the guys, and I really feel like Seattle's gonna be one of those dangerous teams late into the season. Um, Another big surprise to me is Raul Ruidiaz. He hasn't done anything. The only goal that they scored this year is off of a penalty kick from De La Vega, and that was a 90 something minute to tie the game. Um, so if Rui Diaz is able to find his score sheet in this game, I can see Seattle winning it. But if not, then I got Colorado.
I've got Seattle here. I really don't think there's a question to think about it. Um, Seattle's won 24 times against Colorado in their last 34 times they played each other. This game is at Seattle. All the signs are pointing Seattle's way. Colorado's made moves this offseason, but you can't forget that they were the worst team in the MLS last year. And I think they're going to be sent right back down there after this week. And I think the Sounders pull off a 4-0 win.
I agree that Seattle is winning, but I think it's going to be a lot more of a quiet game, like a 1-0, 2-0, something like that, The rainy Seattle pitch, I just yeah, I think Seattle, I don't think this is going to be like the turning point for their momentum, I don't think they're going to just start tonight. I just think it's going to be pretty quiet continuation of how they've played, but I still think they're better than Colorado.
Next game we're going to talk about is Columbus versus New York Red Bulls. Both teams have started off fairly well, or for their perspective. I guess both teams would want to be undefeated right now, but 7 points, you can't complain. Columbus defending champions, Wilfred Nancy in his second year as head coach. Cucho Hernandez, 2 goals in 3 matches, continuing his scoring streak. Um, but New York Red Bulls had a pretty nice offseason, bringing in Emil Forsberg from Leipzig. He has a goal this season from midfield. Lewis Morgan, one of their DPs, has 2 goals this season. Um, I honestly think this game is going to be the best game of the weekend, but I also think it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to end up being 2-2, 3-3. If you're a bettor, definitely bet the over on this game. Both teams are the best goal scoring teams in the league so far this season, I'm pretty sure, other than Miami. So I don't know with this one. Columbus, New York Red Bulls, I think is going to end up 3-3, 2-2, but definitely going to be a great game.
This is one of New York Red Bull's greatest starts in their club history, getting these 7 points up early. They always like to finish the bottom of the playoffs at the end of the year, but they always find a way to sneak in. But facing off against the reigning champs away is already as difficult as it is, and for it being your greatest start in your club's history, I think this is when you reach your first loss. Juan Hernandez is gonna score a goal or two. And I think Columbus takes this 2-0.
Yeah, I agree. I think the greatest start is gonna end this. New York, they're a good team. They're a very good team. I think they can beat anyone any given night, just not Saturday night or Sunday. They're Columbus is just too good, and I think it might be high scoring, or sometimes with those high scoring games, you can get them to go the exact opposite way, where it's like a 1-0 game. I don't
hmm
know. I'd say yeah, 2-0. I think 2-0, 2-1 be a good prediction.
Next game we got is another New York team, New York City FC, facing off against Toronto FC. NYCFC has not had the start of the season they wanted. 3 games, 3 losses, 1 goal scored from Santiago Rodriguez. Um, Honestly don't think they get any better today. Um, Toronto, Lorenzo Insigne's got both of their goals this season. The head-to-head record last season definitely was one-sided to New York, 8-0 on aggregate, basically. But I don't think NYCFC is anywhere near the same team as they were last year, and I don't think they pick it up against a team like Toronto, who has Bernardeschi and Insigne. Like, I honestly think that tells the story itself. 0-3 versus two Serie A vets in the MLS. So I got NYCFC losing 2-0. I'm gonna say 2-0.
Toronto's been historically bad the last two seasons, and New York City just watched a heartbreaker happen right in front of their home crowd last week. Um, they gave up a goal in the 85th minute and then in the 97th minute to lose the win that was right in your hands against Portland. Um, but another home game, it's against Toronto. The fact that you haven't gotten a point yet and you are a New York team is already as sad as it is. But Toronto squeaked out so many games. I mean, they drew 0-0 to Cincinnati. They won 1-0 against the Revolution and then won 1-0 against Charlotte. But I don't think they'll be able to squeak this one out. I think they'll dominate this game, but I think this game ends 1-1.
I'm going with a New York win in this one. I feel like you got to win eventually. Toronto, they're a good team, but like Riley said, they've been squeaking out these wins, and they just haven't convinced me yet. And I feel like, yeah, I'm going New York on this one.
Okay, okay. Next game we got kind of a snooze fest in my opinion, Austin versus Philadelphia. Definitely if you're an Austin fan or in Austin, it's not going to be a snooze fest as Q2 is one of the best atmospheres in all of MLS and will definitely play a factor in this game against Philadelphia, who has had two draws on top of CONCACAF Champions League play this year, which is definitely one of the reasons to their slow start. Shouldn't be 0-2-0, they should be 0-1-1. Um, I don't think the refs do any favors for them in this game, and I honestly think that Austin FC's playmakers are actually going to be influential in this game, unlike the last three games for them. Alex Ring is one of those guys that's going to need to step up a lot more. He has two assists for them so far this season, but um, they're not really putting balls in the back of the net as much as you would expect them to be. I mean, their top three goal scorers are all defenders. So, I mean, if you get the guys up top going, then I think Austin FC's got a really good chance. And along Sporting KC legend, two of them actually, and the coaching staff, Davey Arnaud and Josh Wolf. One of my favorite players is Josh Wolf of all time. Davey Arnaud, Sporting KC legend as well. So I'm definitely going with Austin on this one. I want to say 10-0 because I hate Philadelphia after the last game, but I'm going to go realistic and I'm going to say it's going to be a 1-0, 87th minute winner.
As you said, Austin is a great crowd. I've been there all 3 years that they've played against Sporting. We got family down in Texas and whatnot. They always buy tickets. Um, but Austin is a great crowd to be at. It's awesome to watch them play, and I think they were unable to get the win last week against St. Louis. They were up and dominating the game a lot of the time, but they ended in a 2-2 draw. Philadelphia got a lucky draw against Sporting thanks to the refs. But to my knowledge, this is the first time that these two teams have faced off against each other. Um, but two of the teams that are very similar and down on the bottom, they're both 11th place in each of their tables, I guess you'd say. But I'd go Austin 1-0. I agree with Landon here.
I got to go with Philadelphia, I don't think it's going to be like an open shut game where it's like one team blows out the other, 3-0 game. But I'm going Philadelphia 1-0. Neither of these teams, they haven't separated themselves from each other yet, so it's kind of yeah, it's it's toss up. So I'm going Philadelphia 1-0.
Next game up, we got FC Dallas versus the Vancouver Whitecaps. FC Dallas is always one of those teams that, has the playmakers, always ends up finding themselves, scratching or in the playoffs. Um, against Sporting KC always has a decent record. Every time I think of FC Dallas, I just think of the CJ Sapong red card in 2013, where he was just walking by a player injured and the ball bounced off of him and hit the player in the face, and he got sent off, and we ended up losing that game. But I mean, Vancouver coming off of a win, FC Dallas, 1-0 and 2, have lost their last two matches against Montreal and New York Red Bulls. Um, I feel like a big part of that, Jesus Pereira only has one goal. Paul Arriola hasn't scored. Sebastian Lletget hasn't done really much for the team. Peter Musa has played two games, scored a goal, but to win a game against a team like Vancouver, who is very possession based and will like to sit back and defend, I think you need Jesus Ferreira to score a goal or two to win this game. It being in Dallas, I feel like will play a part. So I am gonna go with Dallas 2-1.
Dallas shockingly hasn't showed up so far this year. They're always a team that's been good with Jesus Ferreira. Um, but I don't think that I think this one is simple for me really. Just because I don't see Vancouver being a really big team that's that good as their record or points say that they are. Especially with being at home. I think Dallas has to show up in the season at some point, and I think this is the game where they start to kick it in gear.
I think that it's going to be a draw. Vancouver, very defensive team. I mean, I just don't think Dallas is going to show up yet. I think that's a couple weeks. That's a week or two down the road. They're both. I don't know. I think in the long run, Dallas will be the better team. I just think now it's pretty even, and I think it's going to be a draw.
Next game we got up is Houston Portland. I feel like that's a pretty decent rivalry in the Western Conference. They always have good matches against each other. The last year wasn't the best for Portland, 5-0 loss on the road and 3-1 loss at home. But other than that, like I think the past three seasons it's basically been like an even record against each other. This season though, Portland is scoring goals. 8 goals right now in the season. Houston Dynamo hasn't won yet. Um, Anthony right now for Portland, I feel like the better Anthony of the two. Has 3 goals in 3 matches right now for Portland. Um, and then, they always got guys like Darren Espria, MLS veterans who always end up finding the back of the net. Juan Mascara, he's a great guy on defense to have, likes the ball at his feet. I got Portland in this one pretty easily, in my opinion, 3-0.
Portland is, as you can say, they've shown up this year. 2-2 draw to DC United and 4-1 win over Colorado and then the 2-1 win over New York City. Pretty quality games that they've been playing. Houston coming off them just losing or getting eliminated from the CONCACAF Championship League to the Columbus Crew after losing 2-1 on aggregate. But the teams that they've played and the way that they've played so far this year with a 1-1 draw to Sporting, and they were able to beat St. Louis and lose to Red Bull. But I just am not impressed with how Houston's played so far this year. And I think I'm going to take Portland in this one.
This is a very aesthetically pleasing match, with the two logos, complementary colors. But I don't think it's going to be a very aesthetically pleasing scoreline. I think it's going to be 6-1 Portland Timbers. I just think they're putting that ball in the back of the net. I'm not impressed by Houston, and I think they're going to get revenge for last year and blow them out.
Oh yeah. I would like to see Portland beat Houston. I'm not a big fan of Portland, but as a Sporting Kansas City fan, you don't like Houston, you know what I'm saying? Like even from the Eastern Conference days. Next up, we're gonna have Minnesota versus LAFC. LAFC, one of those expansion teams that came into the league and immediately was good, which is easy to do in the MLS as a large market team. Minnesota was one of those expansion teams that had to work their way up and built their way up into hosting an MLS All-Star game, having a really nice field at Audi Field. And, this game being in Minnesota at Allianz Field, my apologies. Um, I really do think that Minnesota will continue their fast start that they have. Timo Pukki's been doing great for them so far. And LAFC just really hasn't got a lot of production from Bawanga. MLS's Golden Boot last year, 3 games, all he has is 1 assist, averages 5 shots on goals per match. Um, I just don't think him on that left wing is doing a lot of good for him with Timothy Tillman now on the right side. Timothy Tillman is taking a lot of pressure off of Bouanga, but at the same time, I feel like that pressure is what made Bouanga strive. Um, Unless he can get on the goal sheet in this game, I really don't think LAFC has a good chance. They don't have a lot of other guys that put the ball in the back of the net. There are only 3 players with a goal or assist are their front three, other than Omar Campos, who has an assist on defense. But Mateus Bogusz, their striker, center forward, only has 1 goal in 3 games. Timothy Tillman only has one in 3 games. And they're not getting a lot of production either up top, which is their problem. So I got Minnesota. I got Timo Pukki putting in another one. Maybe Tani Aluesi. I don't know, man. I think Minnesota got this one.
Minnesota had a great game last week against Orlando. As you said, Timo Pukki scored 2 goals in that game, brought Minnesota to that 3-2 win. Minnesota's played really well this year so far. I mean, winning 2 games and drawing one. LAFC's had a bit of a tougher schedule to start off with. They beat Seattle, who's been a very tough opponent always. But then they lost to Real Salt Lake in the snow, which I think affected them to that 3-0 loss, and especially Hugo Lloris, who plays in France and England, isn't really used to that type of weather. So I
You
think,
saw the dive.
yeah,
Oh my
I
God.
think
It was such a pitiful attempt. Dude just fell into the snow.
I think that's why they lost that game, and I'll give them slack for that. But then Sporting just played a great game against them last week when they drew 0-0. Great defensive job from Tim Melia with a lot of saves. Um, so
Still
I think LA.
didn't. Sorry to interrupt you, but if you guys saw the team of the week for MLS, Lloris was on it over Melia, even though he had less stats. But LAFC or Sporting KC, what are you gonna put on Instagram?
I think Tim Melia should have been player of the game just because of the team that he did face.
And dude, that one-on-one save was, I feel like, better than Lloris's diving save. Like, yeah, they both definitely won their teams, or in their mind, solidified the draw. But I honestly think Tim Melia outperformed Lloris.
Yeah, but LAFC just they've always shown up week after week. And I think they show up in this one and I think they get it done. And this is when they start dominating the league and they'll get a 3-0, 3-1 win.
Yeah, I'm going with LAFC as well. They've been kind of streaky this season, but I think the shots are going to start falling. I'm going 1-0, 2-0.
Next game up we got is Nashville versus Charlotte. Nashville's another one of those teams that hasn't won a game, but also hasn't lost a game yet this year. Forward Teal Bunbury for them, former Sporting KC legend, in my opinion at least, has 2 goals for them on the year. Playing against a Charlotte team that, people had higher expectations for them coming into the season after their season last year. Um, they play in the biggest stadium in the MLS, playing at the Panthers Stadium. But this game is in Nashville at one of the nicer stadiums in the MLS, in my opinion. And Nashville always brings out a good crowd. I honestly don't think Nashville gets the win, but I also don't think Charlotte does. I think Nashville ties their 4th game in a row. I think this one 0-0.
I think Nashville is gonna have to win or lose at some point. And I think it's this game right here. I think they get the win over Charlotte. Um, Nashville was one of the teams that dominated the league last year. Now, the question's still up in the air. Will they be able to go back to that form that they were at last year? And I think this is the game that'll decide that. Charlotte, who is going to be a very mid team this year, I believe. Um, I think Nashville has got to prove something here at home, and get the win, and I think they will.
Yeah, it's time for the sophomore slump for Charlotte, and I think Nashville is going to run away with this one 2-0. I think pretty simple in and out type game. So, yeah, I got Nashville.
Next up, we got LA versus the Little Brother Club of Sporting KC. Um, so far this season, both teams are undefeated. The Little Brother Club did lose in the CONCACAF Champions League to Houston, on aggregate. So, other than the teams in MLS that were in the CONCACAF Champions League, um, Little Brother will have less to worry about, I guess, now from now on. Um, I don't think that helps them, honestly. They play a decent LA Galaxy team on the road, and Joveljic for LA Galaxy has 3 goals in 3 matches. Rico Puig has two goals in 3 matches. Um, Marquis Delgado, some guy that you do not expect to be putting up the stats he is on a team like LA Galaxy, 3 assists in 3 games. Julian Ayude on the left side, he's been locking stuff up. And little brother, I don't think has a lot of stuff to give. Pompeo has 2 goals in 3 matches. Um, their big guy up top has 2 goals in 3 matches. Lewin has 1 goal in 3 matches, but I got LA Galaxy in this one 7-0.
Now I got a question for you, Landon. Do you always call this team Little Brother, or do you call them St. Louis City at some point?
I don't even know who you're talking about.
All right.
St. Louis?
Um,
All I know of them as first round knockouts.
Now, the people that don't know who this club is, I will say their name for you. St. Louis City, and LA Galaxy, they drew both times last year. St. Louis City came off to a hot start out of nowhere that nobody thought they would get to. Everybody predicted them to be bottom of the table in the
Didn't
Western
it matter?
and they went up to first, and then they still lost to Sporting, and they still haven't won a playoff game. Um, but St. Louis hasn't had an impressive start to the year this year. LA Galaxy's always a team that can play consistently to the other team's level. Now, do I think they will this time? I think they'll play a little bit softer this game. But home game, it's St. Louis City. I think LA Galaxy wins this one 2-1.
Mhm. Yeah, I can't I can't pick pick St. Louis, you know? Just can't do it morally. And so I'm going LA Galaxy with the 3-1 win. Better happen because I'm gonna be praying for it. So yeah, LA Galaxy.
Yeah, man. It's crazy when somebody that tears their ACL also scores the greatest goal of his whole entire life on you. Talking about Logan and Dembe. Man, that I got put in an absolute shift in those playoff games. Scored his first career MLS goal, which was probably the best goal that he will ever score in his life, and then absolutely dominates the right side of Little Brother FC.
It was
But
his first 2 goals. He scored in both. He was scored
oh
in
yeah,
both
yeah,
of those legs.
yeah.
He scored
Dude,
his first two
he and
goals.
then tore his ACL
Yeah.
out for pretty much all of this season. But I mean, Tim Leibold has not done bad so far this season, so I can't complain. Next games we got the 2 Sunday matches. New England, Cincinnati is the first one we'll talk about. Cincinnati is one of those clubs that I kind of expected to drop off with the absence of Brandon Vasquez. Brandon Vasquez is actually the guy who knocked him out of the CONCACAF Champions League. But they do have Miles Robinson, who they were able to bring in from Atlanta. He actually is their leading goal scorer too. New England hasn't done anything this year, which is very disappointing in New England standards with the amount of money they spend on their DPs. Luckily for them, their DP is actually the only one doing anything on their team, Carlos Gil. But honestly, home game or not, I don't think New England has the firepower to keep up with a fast-paced Cincinnati team. I got Cincinnati win this one 2-0.
New England hasn't won or draw a game at all this year, but they've outscored teams 8-1, teams not in the MLS but in the CONCACAF Champions League. But in the MLS, they've been outscored themselves 2-8 in those three games. Now, this one's kind of a toss-up for me because Cincinnati hasn't played that well either, from my point of view, and it's tough when it's at Massachusetts, at Gillette Stadium. As much as I want to go Cincinnati or a draw here, I think Revolution find a way to get a 1-0 win.
I think the Revolution has been poor so far this season, but I also don't think this game is going to be a blowout for Cincinnati. I'm going 1-0 for Cincinnati. I think they're going to beat them, but it's not going to be as pretty as you expect.
Yeah. The last MLS game we have, Orlando, Atlanta, usually a pretty good rivalry in the Eastern Conference as well. Those games are always fun to watch. Orlando City usually is a pretty decent team. Atlanta, another one of those teams that's good from the moment they joined the MLS. Georgios Giacomakis, 3 goals in 2 matches right now for Atlanta. Um, I was watching the Orlando Miami game, and I didn't really even think Orlando looked that bad. I just don't think they have the fluidity that it takes to play against teams that can put up goals. And Atlanta is definitely one of those teams, Thiago Almeida, Giamacas, they have the guys that will go out and score you goals no matter where they are at on the pitch. And I think that Atlanta's going to win this one at home fairly easy. I do think it's going to be a game similar to the Miami game for Orlando. I got Atlanta win this one 4-0.
This one's another difficult one to pick. Atlanta is historically known for giving up a lot of goals, but scoring a lot of them too. Thiago Almada has been one of those guys that started off really well last year, but he's kind of off to a slow start this year. However, I think that they still win this one. I think this one will be 4-3. Both these two teams are high-scoring teams with not a whole lot of defense going on around them. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be the, American equivalent of like Brexit football. I think it's going to be high scoring. I'm going 3-2 and I'm going to go Orlando. I think these teams are pretty equal. It's going to be, you know, whichever one shows up on the day.
And with that being said, we are gonna have an Instagram post after this weekend before we record the next episode to let you guys know who at the end of the weekend is in the lead with the pick'ems. Um, I'm actually fairly confident about all of our guesses. I can honestly see a lot of these MLS games going either way. Um, but yeah, with that being said, we're gonna head into, in my opinion, the biggest world event happening in Kansas City this weekend, with the opening of CPKC Stadium at Riverfront Park in Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City Current versus Portland Thorns are going to kick off NWSL play tomorrow at 1 p.m., I believe. Um, as we're recording this on Friday night, KC Current, they have had a decent, upbringing coming from an expansion team from Utah. They used to be FCKC, which was one of the dominant teams in NWSL at the time. Vlatko Andonovski was the coach of that team, will be the coach of this team. And honestly, what better of a head coach to be ahead of a team like this when you're opening the first ever women's specific stadium in the world. Like the guy that's been at World Cups, Olympics, won World Cups, has won an Olympic medal, and to be coming into an FCKC team that had an off season like they had, I'm really excited to see what they can do. But Portland Thorns isn't just any other team in the NWSL. The Portland Thorns are one of the better teams in NWSL history. Right now they got U.S. Women's national team striker Sophia Smith. They have former national team defender Megan Klingenberg and Canada legend Christine Sinclair as well up top. Um, with Casey Current this offseason, though, they brought in a new striker to play above Dabinia, who is one of the more exciting players in all of NWSL. Timwa Chawinga, who played in China last year. She's from, I don't want to get this wrong, so I'm gonna look it up real quick. but a very, very small country that is not known for soccer whatsoever, especially in the women's side of things. And she's a girl that gets
I think I
she's
know who
from
you're talking
Malawi.
about.
Yeah, she's from Malawi. She
Yeah.
got the women's Ballon d'Or or Ballon d'Or. She got votes. Like she was voted for in the Ballon d'Or race last year for women, and now is coming to Kansas City to play with Dabinia. Like this offense is about to be really fun to watch this year, and I really do feel like Casey Curran's going to be a high scoring team. And
Mm-hmm.
backup national team goalie Adi Franch is our starting goalkeeper as well, and she always does great in the NWSL. Always keeps us in games. Um, Being a Casey Curran fan, I feel like our biggest flaw in our existence so far has been our attacking play. We don't really have somebody that like a big name person up top that's going to go out and get goals. We had Christine Hamilton for a while who did really well in her time here. But bringing in somebody like Timwa, I really do feel like it's the step to a championship. And with this new stadium, driving by it, on the daily, it's just a beautiful sight on the Missouri River. One of my favorite parks to go to is Riverfront Park. The things that they're doing too outside of the stadium, tomorrow's going to be the first time you're seeing it, but on game days they do a farmers market outside the stadium. One of the biggest complaints about the stadium is the $50 parking, but based on the area, I don't think that's that bad. I mean, the only thing next to it is apartment buildings, a casino, and a river. Like, you can't really ask for much more. With that being said, though, I think it's a perfect way to start off NWSL play. New season, new stadium, only women's stadium in the world for soccer. And I think Casey Curran is going to come on top on this historic day.
Kansas City Current in 2022, they were in fifth place. They were able to make the playoffs. They went all the way to the NWSL final. And then last year was just an absolutely disappointing year. 11th place in the league, second to last. And then I think our move early last year with Lynn Williams, when we gave her up to Gotham, she was one of the leading scorers in the NWSL while we were stuck with a non-scoring offense. Now Dabinia is one of the best players in the world for women, Brazilian midfielder, I believe. But France did not have a great year last year. Vlato has been the U.S. national team coach for the women. They just fell short in the World Cup this past couple years, but the Current have lost so many players, and I mean I'm gonna mention this person as well. A player that they drafted in the second round in the NWSL, I think it was 2 years ago, right after they lost in the finals, was a good player that went to Green Valley, Rylan Childers. She's now playing in the Iceland League. But like it's young players like her that we're losing, whether they're young or they're old. And I hope this team can perform well, but from the preseason standpoint that I'm looking at, I don't see this team uh off to a hot start at least. Especially against the Portland Thorns, who are just another animal. Sophia Smith, who's a really young player, only 7 years older than me. Um, I think Portland spoils the day for Kansas City, and wins by 2 goals.
And before you go, Nick, with your point on them losing younger players, I do see that. But if you have also been seeing, we have signed so many under 18 players to our first team that are like Kansas City high schoolers and St. Louis high schoolers that like I'm pretty sure one of our 17-year-old signings went and scored a hat trick in the U whatever World Cup for women, or maybe it was the Gold Cup, but I remember seeing something like she scored 2 goals on 2 touches or something. But I really am not worried too much about our influx of youth. Just also being with the stadium, that brings people. That's gonna bring players. It's a talking point. Kansas City is not one of those cities that brings in a lot of talent soccer wise that are big name players. Our biggest signing, Sporting KC wise, in my opinion, ever is probably Preki. But like recent history, honestly no big names. Ilie Sanchez, Fontas. They're all players that come from the top leagues, but never anybody that's a top name. Um, I do think that, this stadium, Patrick Mahomes being a co-owner, us, the Metro Sports fan, we're close with Chris Long, another co-owner. Like, I think that they're in a perfect direction to just blow NWSL out of the water in the next few years. And I'm not saying that chip comes this year, but the roster that they're building around their superstar, like Sporting KC should have been doing years ago, it shows me that they actually care more about the wins and not the development.
Yeah. The script is telling me that the Current are going to win this first game. I think it's going to be 3-0. I don't think that's going to be indicative of anything, any other results of the season. I don't know. No matter who wins, I don't think it's going to give us a good view of how the season's going to
Oh
go.
yeah.
So, but I think with all this fanfare, all these things happening around the club, all these new players, there's going to be a ton of external factors, and I think Casey Curran's going to win and it's going to make the day.
Yeah, man. And it's on national TV, ABC. I just think like it's too perfect for the script writers to spoil the day, honestly.
Hmm.
With that being said, we're gonna be finished with our professional talk and hand it off to Riley to show us the Missouri rankings that we're supposed to drop this morning. Had some technical difficulties with Twitter on that, but I mean now we're gonna see them from Riley firsthand live. So Riley, take it away, man. Yep.
So this is the Missouri girls state rankings that I've compiled up. Liberty North at number one is pretty undisputed.
Oh yeah.
They went undefeated last year. They were state champions last year. And that's pretty simple as it is. One
Yeah,
of the
Megan Heinekamp with the Gatorade Player of the Year as well.
Yeah, that girl just left as a senior. They had a lot of seniors leave, and their head coach left as well. They're going to have to prove themselves to keep this number one spot early on in the season as they play these tougher teams um, with tournaments going on at the beginning of the season for all of these different Missouri teams. And then the number two team is Narings Hall. They got second place last year. They lost to Liberty North, but they've been second place the last four of the last technically 4 years because 2020 wasn't a year that counted. So Narings Hall has always been a team that's right there in class four, always in second place. So they're going to hope that they can get the win this year. And then at number three, which may come as a shock to some people, is a Class 3 school, Fort Zumwalt South. They've been the state champs the last 3 years in Class 3. And they've just been a dominant powerhouse in Class 3, hoping that they can get moved up to Class 4 at some point. And then the next team is Lafayette Wildwood. They're a Class 4 team that placed third last year, and they placed second place in their district the year before that. Lafayette Wildwood is going to have something to prove to keep this top four spot early on this year. So we'll see if they're able to keep that one.
And fans of the show know about Lafayette. We went out there for, I'm pretty sure it was our first game of the week in St. Louis, the 4 hour drive, the 6 hour drive back since we stopped in Columbia. It was a lot of fun. I hope to be out in St. Louis again, hopefully for some girls soccer this year.
Kickapoo is a team that actually is playing while we were filming this, so we'll see if they won that game. They're playing Boonville in Arkansas,
Or Bentonville, yeah.
Vincentville.
And if you know anything about Arkansas high school sports, you know that they're dominated by Bentonville, Little Rock, and Fayetteville. So
Why can't I find them? What class is Kickapoo in?
they should be class four.
Okay, yeah, I found
Class
them.
four, District 5, maybe.
Class four. Yeah, Kickapoo's a team that finished fourth place last year. They went 22-7-1. They've been district champs the last I believe, 6 years um, in Class 4. So the top five team in Missouri as it stands. And then you have Smithville, who is a Class 3 school who placed second place last year and third place the previous year before that. Smithville has always been a team to upset Class 4 teams. Grain Valley has always played Smithville, and it's always up in the air as to who will win that one before the game. And I believe they play again this year, so it'll be fun to see those teams face off. And then number seven, Lee Summit, who actually played their first game today against their actual number 10, Incarnate Word Academy. Lee Summit has been a dominant team in Class 4. They were Class 4 district champs, but then they lost in that first round to our number one ranked team in Missouri Liberty North. So pretty tough to do so. Um, but Lee Summit won 4-1 earlier today against our Incarnate Word. So we might have to make some changes if some teams higher up above them can't prove themselves to be powerhouses. And then the next team we have is Union, who placed fourth place in Class 3 last year. And then they placed third, fourth, and fourth from 2021 all the way to 2018. So Union's been a team that's always been right there for Class 3 schools. We'll see how they can compare against Class 4 schools with these tournaments going on early in the season. And then the next team at number 9 is Blue Springs South. They upset Grain Valley in the district final to make it to state. So they were district champs last year. They weren't able to make it much further than that. But Blue Springs South is a team that got a lot of their girls back. So hoping to make a state run and trying to win districts again over Grain Valley, which will be a difficult task to do. And then number 10, Incarnate Word, as I just said, they lost to number 7, Lee Summit earlier. They play Liberty North tomorrow, Saturday, as we're filming this. So we'll see if Incarnate Word can prove themselves to at least stay up in the top 15. And then at number 11, you have Ursuline Academy, who's a Class 3 school that placed third, fourth, and then they won the Class 2 state championship in 2021. So they've always been there in the running for the Final Four the last 3 years, whether it's Class 2 or Class 3. So we'll see if they're able to prove themselves in these tournaments. And then you have my school at number 12, Grain Valley. They lost one girl technically last year who was a senior, Lexi Nicholson, who moved on to play college ball. And then you have Anatata, who unfortunately has cancer that will not be playing. And then you have some subs that will not be playing as well, like Kylie Bragaw. So we'll see how Grain Valley can do in the Platte County tournament this weekend. So see if they're able to hold up a top 15 spot as well. And then the next Class 4 school at number 13 is Jackson. Jackson won districts last year as 17-2, so one of the better records in Class 4 last year. And then they were district champs from 2023 to 2017. And then in 2018, they actually got fourth place in Class 4. So Jackson has always been a team that has competed at a top level. And then this one may come as a surprise to some. St. Pew coming in at number 14. Some you could say should go higher. Some others you could say could go lower. St. Pew actually beat Grain Valley in the Platte County tournament last year. St. Pew is actually a Class 2 school. So our first Class 2 school makes it into the top 25. They placed second in Class 2 last year with a 22-6 record, and they placed second place in their district the year before that.
Yeah, and if you know anything about St. Pius, then you know that no matter their class ranking, they always find ways to win against the bigger class schools. Being a private school definitely helps with that, of course, but at the same time, like they always put out a great program every year.
And then at number 15, filling in that last top 15 spot is St. Teresa's Academy. They placed second in their district last year. They were district champs the previous year before that. And then in 2021, they placed third in Class 4. So them as well have been their team that's played at a high level consistently. And then at number 16 is a Class 2 school as well. So our second Class 2 school gets in is Pleasant Hill. They placed fourth in Class 2 last year, and then the previous year they placed third in Class 2. And then from 2021 to 2015 in state, they've placed third twice, fourth once, and they've district champs 3 times. So Pleasant Hill has been consistently a great team all the way back from 2015, winning their district and causing havoc at state. And then at number 17, you have Springfield Catholic, who in 20 who last year they were district champs, and then the year before that they got second place in their district. But then from 2021 to 2018, they've been district champs, and then in 2017 they were the Class 2 state runner-up. So them as well have always competed at a high level. And then at number 18, you have St. Vincent. I'm actually restart that because I can't find them right now. Okay, they're there. And then at number 18, you have St. Vincent, who is the Class 3 District 1 champs last year at a 16-5 record. They didn't do anything in 2022 when districts were placed second in that, but from 2019 through 2017, they had many state finishes. They won state twice, and they got second in state once from 2019 to 2017. So we'll see if St. Vincent can go back to those days and keep their top 25 spot. And then another Class 3 school will be Glendale at number 19. They got second place in their district last year, and they placed second in Class 3 the previous year before that. But they've always been a consistent team based off the record. 20-4 last year, 21-4 in 2022. So we'll see if Glendale can keep that for only 4-loss record or even do better than that. And then I believe we have our final. Nope, I take that back. I'm gonna restart that. I'll look at that one more time. Okay. And then we have our third Class 2 team make it into the top 25. This team is Clayton. They were the Class 2 state champs last year, who won at over St. Pie. They were only 13-10, so a barely above 500 record, but they were able to go all the way and win state last year. And we'll see if they're able to compete for state again this year. And then coming in at number 21 is Nixa, who got second place in their district last year, 13-9. And then in 2022, they only had a 12-10 record. So we'll see if Nixa can mix it up this year, play a little bit better in these upcoming tournaments. And then at number 22, you have Francis Howell Central, who placed second in their district last year, and then they were district champs the previous year before that. Have consistently had an above 500 record, so we'll see if they're able to keep that as well. And then another Class 4 school at number 23, you have Park Hill South, who got second place in their district last year at a 14-8 record. And then they have some upcoming freshmen that could cause a lot of havoc for the northern teams in Park Hill. And then at number 24, you have St. Michael the Archangel, who is our final Class 3 school. They were the district champs last year at 17-7, and then all the way back in 2021, they got second place in Class 1. So they've moved up a few classes over the last couple of years, and they've been able to compete at a high level, consistently getting above 500 in those last 3 seasons. And then at our number 25 spot, filling in the final spot, is our final Class 2 team, who is Perryville. They got second place in their district last year. They placed fourth in Class 2 the previous year before that with a 19-4-1 record. And then in 2021, they were Class 2 District 1 champs. And so Perryville, our last Class 2 team. Now, as a Class 2 team, it's hard to keep your spot as it is or even put them in there with all of those higher class teams. But Perryville was able to fill in that spot due to them being able to compete for state consistently every year and getting them fourth place in 2022.
Sweet. Thank you, Riley, for that. Riley ahead of our girls soccer rankings on the Missouri side this year. Kansas, don't feel left out. I think you'll see them on Twitter before you see them on the podcast. But with that being said, we hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of the False Nine Pod. Next episode, we'll have a lot more high school soccer to talk about as the games start getting underway. Um, we're gonna make it out to a few this week as well. Really excited about this upcoming girls season and excited about the longevity of this podcast too. We have a few other ideas that we hope to implement in the future as well to make this an awesome podcast and continue to bring great episodes. This one was definitely probably the longest one you'll have out of all the False Nine pods. Just kind of to get things started. It's easy to ramble and ramble when you're talking about soccer, in my opinion. But with that being said, I was here with Arch Manning and Tyler Buckner, Nick and Riley from Metro Sports MoKan. I'm Landon from Metro Sports MoKan, and we hope you enjoy it.